Welcome to Prog Will Find a Way, your friendly neighborhood progcast. I'm Jonathan Block.
And I'm Jay Valade.
And we're joined once again by...
Tim Taddei.
Thank you, Tim, for last episode, the recap on Cruise to the Edge.
Yes. Very informative and enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean...
At least to me.
No, I learned. I
can't speak to our audience, but for me.
No, I thought it was good because it was, you read a lot of reviews about the bands and things between the bands, but it's nice to hear kind of like the day-to-day.
Yeah. And the ins and outs.
Yeah, and the ins and outs. And it's a lot of great bands, so.
So today we're going to go back to our thing that we did a couple weeks back and spend an episode about the news.
Yes, I've got some news items. I know Jay has some, Tim has some as well, so we'll just kind of start going through here. These are the ones I saw. Beat. Everybody hear about Beat? B-E-A-T, which is...
the new Adrian Belew band with Steve Vai, also on guitar, Tony Levin on bass, and Danny Carey from Tool on drums.
Yes, doing apparently the trifecta, the trio of albums from the early 80s.
By King Crimson.
Yes.
And sign of approval by Mr. Fripp himself.
Fripp approved.
Fripp approved and allegedly named the band as well. So it's early days. All we know, we saw there's like a blurry poster online and a one date in San Diego at a place that is right down the street from where I stayed, probably like 15 years ago. That they have this outdoor venue right down by the marina and at this hotel, and people are playing there. Tears for Fears were there when I was there, and I kind of kicked myself for not going, but we had...
I can't think of a better place to see an outdoor show than San Diego. I mean,
right?
Talk about temperate.
But we're hoping
nice.
We're hoping for a greater tour. John had heard.
I thought.
Dates
now
and
I
dates.
could be. I could be just. This could be a rumor, but I heard 40 some odd dates, not necessarily consecutively.
Which would be cool.
I could be wrong. That would be very cool.
I'm
that
very
would take
interested
the
to hear
United
it all.
States.
I've never seen Steve Vai or Danny Carey.
No.
Obviously, I've seen Adrian and Tony, but.
And by the way, we have two very, very appropriate venues in Fairfield, Connecticut.
That's right.
Both Adrian and Tony have frequented one of them, but there's also...
both. I saw Adrian at the warehouse, too.
Yes. So there are, we're still here.
Come on back.
And then, we'll try to get him on the show.
That's our line every time somebody rolls into town.
And it's an easy commute for Mr. Levin.
It is. It's true.
I would
up
even...
in Woodstock. You'll drive him?
You'll drive him? Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. I'll send a car.
So I think we got to do that. We got to...
offer that service?
Yeah, well, no. The people who do come to town... Try to, John Lodge is coming, and I'm sure John Davidson will be following there.
Honestly,
as well,
I was waiting till, you kind of have to have a little heft behind you, which is more.
What do you mean? 200 listens.
So we just need a little more subscribers. So we don't usually ask for them, but if you like it, please subscribe.
Is there any word that Beat will have any music of their own?
Oh, I don't know. I think they're probably just going to try it out on the road, and it's like the Crimson thing where they
be surprised.
They feel each other out, and then they find out whether there's something to do.
They're going to start playing together, and I mean, both Steve and Adrian are both prolific writers, much less Tony and Dan. They both write. They all write. But Adrian and Steve I are extremely prolific. I find it hard to believe that after playing.
Who knows though? Because you got to see what the chemistry is. Because what they'll come up with playing these other songs that they already know, or that they're learning, and see how they interact. Maybe it's not the forum for them to do that. Or maybe they're going to be like, you know what?
Yeah,
it's clicking. Let's do it.
I'm just interested to see Steve Vai's take on it because, I mean, there's no doubt he could play the lines exactly the same in his sleep. And I found it interesting when they first announced this. People are like, oh, how Steve Vai. I'm like, have you ever listened? Like, have you not even listened to him, but like listen to him talk? Like, he's a extremely laid back guy who is an amazing guitar player. He would not be doing something like this if he but I don't think that's what he's going to do. Right. I don't want to hear him do that. I want to see what he's freaking amazing on his own.
Well, which is part of the Crimson ethos, right? You gotta play the music, let the music play you or
Yeah.
whatever. It's not going to be
Right.
like, don't copy note for note. Let's hear what
Right.
what
Yeah, I
how
mean,
it
people
moves
were
you.
never. I know there's like a misconception. People were never told what to play in Crimson. It was like, you
Right.
know, you get the caliber of people that can play what the music needs, and but yeah. So
Well,
I
and
think
I don't
it's
know,
gonna be
and
good.
you can tell me, but I don't know if that has happened 80s on as much as it did like in the middle 70s, because as we all know, the Bruford Wetton Fripp David Cross combo was always improvising.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
the ship, much less the songs. There were always set parts in the
Right.
set list,
Which I don't know if
what
that
they were
happened
going
as
into.
much in the 80s or even
It did
further.
not happen in the 80s, really. I mean, they had songs like "Sheltering Sky" would be vehicles for improvisation, but in the 90s, not
The
much
thracky
either.
kind of stuff?
There were some percussion things, but then again, the I'm getting my
Construction of Light time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
Construction of Light.
I mean, they would do some parts in the concert because what was the album that was put out that was just all the improvs? Thrack Attack. Thrack Attack.
Yeah. Oh, right.
So
Yeah, so-
it will be. It definitely will be interesting to see. And then another great tour. Jon and the Band Geeks are coming back around.
Yeah, Jon Anderson and the Band Geeks. I don't know how many shows they're doing. I think it's like 20 shows, something. I'm in that zone. So they're coming to Connecticut, so I will be the representative that goes to
Yes,
see them.
unfortunately, we can't get the whole team there. So Jay will report back.
Tickets
Jay
are a
will
little
report
pricey.
back. But the difference is though that they're saying they're going to be doing original. They're going to be doing
Right, they have an
They have
album that they're
original
supposedly coming
compositions.
out with, so we'll have to see
Yeah, I
how that
mean,
all plays out.
Yeah, I mean they could just not play like Gates of Delirium, and then they could play that whole
The full album?
Yeah, the full album. So, I don't know about
Yeah,
the
that's right,
trade-off.
that's right, yeah.
Just no one needs to hear
Substitute.
Roundabout, and I've seen All Good People again.
Well, I don't. Yeah, they still got to fill the seats, but
I know.
the seats are selling very well.
Did they
for the
play
Richfield.
Owner? Did they play Owner?
I don't recall if they did or
Yeah.
not. They probably did. I mean,
They had
there's
to.
And that's what's funny. You read certain things, and it's like, well, the promoter said we had to play certain
Right.
things to get people in the seats. So,
Yeah.
for all you know, it's like Owner's a foregone conclusion.
This day and age, it is. I mean, I remember in the 70s or even into the 80s, people would get subversive, right? It was like they'd come out and play the hit as the first song or like the second
Right.
song, and you can't do that. You know, you can't
No,
do that. You
somebody
gotta
did
waive
that
it.
recently, and I can't remember what show it was. And I'm like, wow, they played the one song I know right
Yeah,
away.
there's like
That's what's going to happen this summer at the amp. You know, Jenny.
yeah, you get the hits and nothing but the hits.
That's right.
But I'm very excited about it. The last time I saw Jon Anderson was with the School of Rock, which was a really fun show. You could tell he's having a blast up there with all these high school kids. But they're learning all these things, and they got 80 kids up there playing Yes songs. But I think this is a more polished version. I didn't get to see them on their last tour, but apparently it went well enough for them to want to do it again and want to record some music
Real
together.
music, yeah.
So-
And there's obviously, there's a lot of videos out there. You can check them
You
out.
can check them out. They got full shows
Yeah.
of some of this stuff.
Right.
But
And it's
they're not pro shots.
Right.
They're
No.
Yeah.
so be prepared.
Right.
But it's a prolific lineup of musicians, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they
and
do know what they're doing.
they're having fun. It's nice to see
Yeah.
bands of people there smiling and they're
Right.
really having a good time.
And so that will be fun. I don't even know when I'm seeing them, but it's over the
June?
summer sometime.
I think the tour is in June.
Yeah.
And
They just announced that.
speaking of Yes, I just want to bring this up because I'm just amazed. I read in Prog magazine. I think it was the 90125 edition, which by the way. And Jay can attest to that was an amazing issue, an amazing article. The backstory behind 90125 was way
was
more
good.
than I ever imagined. So
Well,
it's very cool.
I'm kind of a student of that, so I've heard some of it before, but not I.
I'm humbled in your presence.
But you were getting to the point that there was the Rick Wakeman.
There's a Rick Wakeman, and by the way, the pictures. There were some pictures in there that were like,
Oh, the yes ones.
The yes ones.
Yeah, those I had not seen.
Yeah, that was
all
like
right.
what
Fair enough.
God, they look
I
so
can't claim
young
that.
too. But yeah, in that issue, there was a review of a Rick Wakeman show. I think it may have been November, the London Palladium, and I was looking through it, and then I'm looking through the set list, and I'm thinking, so Rick's got to be close to 80, right? I mean, or 78. Late 70s. And I'm like, okay, they played this album. It looks like he played 4 albums, and then he did an entire set of Yes music, like full Yes songs. And I went and listened to some of it because I think the set is. I think they may have put it out, as something.
Yeah.
But I saw some pro shop video from it, and it was like. It was good. Which
is very cool. And he's touring now too, which is supposedly his final American tour, but it might be his final solo keyboard American piano.
Is he coming
American
here
tour.
alone, or is he?
I think he's coming
with a band.
Yeah. I think he's coming up to Ridgefield.
Yeah, he is playing Ridgefield.
Okay.
Which,
so now that I think of it, the Palladium show was live. I then went and listened to. They did put something out from a couple of years ago, but it was like 4 albums, and it was more of the stamina. I think that's what kind of amazed me because you're talking at least a 3 to 4 hour show.
Well, no, it's a 4-disc set.
Okay.
On Spotify.
Okay.
Live at the London Palladium.
Okay, so
2023, 4 discs.
Yes. Okay. So it was a review of the show and the media.
Yeah.
And
3 hours and 22 minutes.
Yeah. Absolutely insane.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and there's a
unless did he do it over 2 nights or was it one?
No, I think it was one night unless
cow.
they're making it seem like one night. But there was like a teaser video, and I watched that, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good. He's got a female vocalist singing a lot of the songs, but the South Side of the Sky was the one that stuck out.
So it's not really that's not so much new, but
no.
it's a recent release, but also just the fact that he is now touring the States.
Right, and he's got,
and
I'm not trying to compare him to Steve Hackett because it's not really, but it's not similar. But the fact that he can do, like I said, it's 4 albums and it's orchestra, the choir, the whole thing, and I just amazed me that he could pull it off. Not that I'm acting like, Rick Wakeman just does these grumpy old men kind of thing. It is kind of interesting, though, that he can do that and he can do this. That's so kudos to Rick Wakeman. Moving on, Big Train, who we talked about a bit before, their new album. Did they play a lot of the new album?
They sure did. And again, they highlighted "Love Is the Light," which was written by the new lead singer, Alberto Salvin. And the thing about the new album is that while we miss David Longdon and what he brought as one of the founders with Greg Spotton of the band, is that Berto brings new life to the band. He's a singer, obviously. He's a composer. He's a writer. And so they spent a lot of time on this new album on arrangements. And a lot of it just was very fluid. And Greg had to get through the idea that he's no longer, his partner's gone, Dave.
Yeah.
And he's got to figure out a new way. And what he did was he stepped back and let the rest of the guys like Nick and the rest of the band kind of step in and bring their perspective to the music.
Which
and
is
it
kind
shows.
of nice.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge Big Train person. So I don't know. I know their music and I've listened to it over the years, but I'm not like diving in. But do they have, it's not like a constant lineup, is it?
Yes.
Because Dave Gregory was in the band from XTC at one point,
he
right?
was at one point. But the last,
so I'm always like, are there like
last-
different people going in and out, or is it just that Dave was in there at one point?
Last several years, it's been the same lineup.
Consistent. Okay.
And Nicky D is just spectacular. U.S.-based drummer playing in a predominantly UK band, and he calls this his band.
Right.
Even though, obviously Spock's beard was his
Yeah.
band for a long time,
Yeah.
he's always felt like this is his roots, because it's such a diverse group of musicians. They have a full brass section, a violin, things like that. And what I like about the new album, getting back to that, is that a lot of their stuff that David would write was his history based. The first Rebreather and things about Da Vinci and
This one's a little.
this is more light, and it's about the human existence and what
Less specific.
That's right. and that helps because it lightens up the music and it gives the band space too,
Right.
to just let go. And there's some really quiet moments. And then there's a couple like Beneath the Masts where they just go off, and it's Prog.
Yeah.
And typically that's not they're kind of in between a folk kind of feel and a prog kind of feel. There's a lot of that.
Which is more up my alley than the as many notes as possible heaviness.
Understood.
I had never really listened to them before at all. I'd heard their name. I'd listened to their songs would pop up occasionally on the Prog magazine samplers, the CDs.
Yeah.
But I never had any
that's
really
right.
preconceived notions of them. And then when David died, there was a lot of press about it. So I was like, oh, okay. To be honest, I was like, okay, so this band was more well-liked than I had imagined. So
Yeah,
I'm
there was
like,
a lot.
so I should explore. So I listened to the catalog coming forward. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I said, but now I get to get in with essentially, with a brand new, like you said, 3 years. It was a while to wait. They put something out though at one point. I think there was a video or something where where you got a taste of what the new singer was like. It was within a year that they had announced him.
Yes, because they did a couple of shows, a couple of light shows. They did the Ingenious Devices. That was sort of like an EP.
Okay,
But that was David. But then Berto, Albie, they've been kind of throwing some of the new stuff out there, just to see how people felt. But there's a chemistry. I never got a chance to see them with David, which kind of bums me out, but they never came to the United States.
Right.
And so, we talked about this before. When you lose somebody in a band that was really important and that meant a lot to you, because that was, they were part of that scene. But Albie brings it. He brings a really strong presence and vibe that's electrifying.
That's
it's
good.
Fun to watch.
All right.
And
I've listened to it I think I listened to it once and then partially another time, and then of course
we're hoping
homework gets in the way, so you can't just.
I'm hoping to turn a trier into a buyer.
But it's a good. I again never listened to it other than I want to hear this album. And I've listened to this a few times. It's great. It's nice. It's definitely a grower, and they're touring too. So
They are.
On a second note, I've listened to the Father Robin stuff
Oh, right,
again,
right, the
and
Chronicle of Father Robin.
I did like it. Second time around,
Yeah.
I like it even more. So that one might.
Yeah, that is it.
That one might stick.
I like that. I do like that. That's made up. It's like a Swedish kind of proggy
Have you heard
supergroup.
of it? Okay.
And they've released. I think the first one came out in October, November. There were
Strokes.
3 of them. Yeah, it's definitely more kind of simple, very Camel moments and things like that in it.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah. The first couple, I think the first is the best. I thought that was the strongest. And then the second one gets a little quieter, and then the third one is kind of a mix of both. But it's definitely interesting. I have to admit that it made me seek out some of the people in the band, and I like their other stuff better. This one band, Zopp, Z-O-P-P, which is really
I listened
one
to
of the
at
guys.
your,
and it's very cool. I mean, there's a lot of touch points to other kind of prog.
Yeah.
All right, who else we got on this list?
Quickly, because this came over my consciousness. Tim Blake synthesis from Gong, if people don't know. He put out a couple of very landmark albums in electronic music in the early to mid 70s, and they're packaging it all up, so I think that's cool. Decemberists.
Yes, the Decemberists have a new album coming out.
2 songs already available.
Yes.
There's one long
double album.
Yes,
an
double
on-purpose double album from the
Yeah.
Decemberists.
I don't really think I think it's very Decemberists, there's no doubt, but I don't think it's this goes to something Jay and I have talked about before. Just because the song's 10 minutes doesn't mean...
True. So the new song that they put out, which I gotta look up what it's called. I love the Decemberists. My son and I are huge Decemberists fans. The rest of the family is as well, but mostly my son and myself. And the Decemberists have some very prog moments.
Yes.
The Tain is very proggy, a 4-part, 20-minute long thing. And then the whole Crane Wife album.
Yep.
They're not technically prog as far as, but, they're doing prog, even though they're doing it with their own, thing. And I don't think they shy away from it, but they also are proggy in the way that they'll switch from album to album into all different things. The new one, I started listening to it and I'm like, all right, 20 minutes or 18 minutes or whatever. And I'm like, Joan in the Garden or something.
Yeah, Joan
in the Garden.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's see, bring it on. And so I'm listening to it and I'm like, it's not prog as you know it.
Right.
But then when you're listening to it, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait, is this a Hammond solo or something in the middle of the song?
That's right.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But there's slow, mellow.
Mm-hmm. It's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn, and it's very not a lot happening in certain parts of the song, but because they're giving it the time to happen is kind of part of the progginess of it, that they're actually treating it as a piece of music and letting those moments unfold, which to the point of our last conversation about too many notes, there's not a lot of notes.
No,
but at the same time it has those moments that they let things simmer and build again, and so there is that progginess.
It has a very ambient quality to it, whereas if you don't listen, if you're not listening to it, it's still very pleasant, but if you do listen to it, there are things, different layers going on.
So you've listened to it. I didn't know if
and it brings in sort of the mind, like you get like a little Pink Floyd where less is more, and as you say, to your point, that the prog just kind of creeps up on you.
It does.
And it's
all of a sudden you're like, you're in the middle of it.
It's a little slow, and I don't know where they're going, but it's pleasant, and it's not going to make anybody unhappy listening in the room having a conversation. But then all of a sudden, wow! Now where did that?
Wait,
come
how did
that?
All of a sudden you're in the middle of this big giant thing that's happening, and you're like, when did they? If I came into the middle of the song, I'd be like, wow, how proggy. But then by the time I'm like, where's the prog?
Like, where did right. But it's like, how did they all of a sudden slip into 7 time? And we're here when we were just kind of relaxing. Yeah, I like that. I like less is more a lot. There's a lot of bands that can do that well.
So they're on tour, coming on tour as well.
Really?
Yes. So I'm going to go see them in New Haven.
Nice.
I have tickets to that as well. It's kind of funny because, you name it, I'm almost going to it unless Tim wants me to go, and then I blow him off at the last minute.
Exactly.
Well, this is almost the opposite. A bunch of episodes ago, Jay and I were talking about, I think it was the Steve Wilson album, or Gabriel, and I was bemoaning the way they just drip these things out. But in this case, I actually like it because it wouldn't, if it just came out, it would not necessarily have been something that I rushed to listen to. Right. But the fact that it was like a song or two, and they were so different, they're
Burial Ground, the first taster,
it's a single,
it kind of reminds me of Sloop John Beaver or something from the Beach Boys, or and it's got James Mercer from
Right.
So they
But it's very Genesis-y
the
too.
synths.
It's like, here's the single, here's Turn It On Again, or here's a
it's-
later one. But if
it's
you go
too
to the
poppy.
album, there's always something.
It's very poppy,
you know.
but the Decemberists
So I
kind of
Can't
have that
Dance.
moment. They've
Yeah,
got
of
these
course.
poppy moments,
Yeah.
but they've got poppy moments singing about burial grounds,
Right.
and about two
Yeah.
people jumping off a cliff together. You know,
Yeah, the first one very very much brought XTC to mind
All right.
in subject matter and whatnot. Okay, last thing that I got, and then we can move on. Nick Mason is 80. I think he's in his 80s, and he's still touring. Saucer Full of Secrets,
They're gonna-
celebrating the early, still celebrating the early years of
Are they-
Floyd.
they're
my
on
favorite.
tour?
They're coming on tour, I believe, in May and June. It's coming
America?
Up. No, not America.
Oh.
But they might come back. They have been here. They played
Australia.
that helps me none.
They played. They played. I don't know what the hell they call it these days, but they played Oakdale.
They did.
They did, but
all right.
I was not.
Yeah.
I was out of town.
I listen to the Rock on Tours podcast all the time, which is Guy Pratt
Yeah,
and Gary Kemp
Yeah.
from the band.
Yeah, and also Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet. We can
and
never
Guy
forget
Pratt
that.
from
Pink Floyd.
Ice House, Pink
Ice
Floyd,
House.
Toy Matinee.
You
The
name
list
it.
goes on.
The list goes on. Sade.
Sade, that's true.
I think he
So-
has. I don't know.
And they're always very enjoyable when I listen to them. So I'm like, I gotta go see these guys when they come and play. But
Yeah.
I hope they come back because
That
I'm
does-
really
that-
bummed that I missed last
If
time.
they're doing a
Yeah.
European tour,
Let's hope
as
they
long as
do.
it's successful, they should
Yeah.
probably.
yeah,
They do
Maybe.
have a Blu-ray out.
it's not the same.
It's not the same, but it is very good. It's good. Yeah,
There's
I mean,
nothing
if you,
like live music. Come on. Now.
if you like that era, which I happen to be, I love that era. It's great. So
So
all right.
I would like to see that if I had the opportunity. So there's not a ton of other news, but I did notice John and I talked about Record Store Day in a previous episode, and I noticed another new entry into Record Store Day, which was the demos of Hergest Ridge by Mike Oldfield getting released on vinyl for the first time. Apparently they were on the 2 CD version when they did the re-release back in 2004 or something.
So this
like
is similar to what we talked about a couple of times ago with the Jethro Tull Chateau Disaster tapes.
Yeah.
They pulled it from the deluxe version, making it an album, and I was wrong. They had originally said it was only going to be 3 sides. It was just going to be the album. But what they ended up doing is pulling a couple of other demos from like War Child
Oh,
and the
okay, and
era,
putting them on the 4
and
side.
putting them on the 4 side. So, but
and it's
the
similar.
same-
It's similar to the Yes one that's going to get released on Record Store Day, in that it's on the box set on
the bowl.
but it's not on vinyl, and so
Right.
this will be the vinyl release of that
yeah.
for those
Who never
who
bought
need that.
any other
I d-
media
but
player
I-
but a record player.
right. But I don't know whether it's going to get released in America or whether it's just a British
A UK
release.
record store day. Well,
So we'll see.
Google's your friend, viewers.
Are you a vinyl person?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
You left vinyl behind when you left CDs behind, and you
I
are now
did.
pure streaming.
Pretty much.
Well, I am too. I've left.
It's just-
I left CDs behind a decade ago, and I
Yeah.
do not.
I know, but I
regret it
can't
once.
not get these physical
No,
box set.
I
things.
had that same addiction. if you will.
Wow.
Yeah. No. But what's happened is because of my workspace, and I can really listen to what I want when I want.
Well, you can
My-
give me all those Steve Wilson ones that you
So,
bought. Those, the
yeah,
big, but you just
true.
give them to me
Yeah.
if you want to get rid of them.
And then I had hundreds and hundreds of albums, and I have a client who is in the music field. He owns Detroit Record Club,
Oh, cool.
and he's the guy that brought me to Kiss.
Oh, right.
Specifically, and Motley Crue. John Five is one of his best friends, and Nikki Sixx is one of his best friends. So we spend a lot of time. I'm turning him on to my music, our music, and he understands the players. He's just in a 4/4 world, and and we're not. So,
That's funny.
Maybe Owner is the only song that actually you can dance to in Prog, right?
There's always an intersection somewhere.
Yeah,
Well,
somewhere,
hey, there's
somewhere.
the Yes remixed album, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's so easy to do everything here.
I agree.
And unfortunately, in your car, and
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Yes.
At this point too, it's too late. Like 10 years ago or whatever, I sold most of everything. You could still get a pretty good price for a bunch of stuff. These days, not so much.
Yeah.
Although you have a lot of rare stuff. Not that we're trying to pressure you into
selling.
Yeah, and by the way, we're not hating on.
That's my second act.
Yeah, we don't need.
That's my
people-
second act.
There
John.
you go. Okay.
yes.
We're gonna
Selling all my.
You gotta
I
open
know.
a store 1 year only until the
It's
shop is
gonna be
empty.
your own record.
Yes.
Store. Dogwood Records.
You got any news, Tim? Any good releases or stuff coming up?
Well, I'm a big fan of the European prog scene, so I want to continue to just push, bands that are kind of on the periphery, not the band Periphery itself, but it's another great band with another great album. But we're kind of getting into the season where new releases aren't going to happen. Bands are going on tour. The new releases were the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So I know Steve Hackett. I want to bring him back into the picture because he is selling out stadiums in the south of the United States right now, and that's pretty cool because.
I'd like to have him come back up this way.
He should. I don't know why he doesn't.
We saw him locally,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
a fantastic
It
show.
really
I think
was
we
a
talked
great
about this
show.
last
Same
time.
thing, 2 sets,
Yes,
his
that's right.
solo stuff, and then
Yep.
it was right after the Premonition. It was right
Yes.
after the
That's right,
Premonition
that's
box
right,
set, because
that's
they were
right.
selling it there.
Yes. Did I buy that?
I
at
think
that
you may
set?
have bought it.
I know it's in the other room.
Did
I
you
just
buy
don't
it
know if
there?
I-
Of course he
I
did.
don't know if I bought it there.
I don't think you did.
I think I got it online.
I think he would have.
He's going to be the.
He didn't pay retail.
There's Gamblers Anonymous.
Right.
There's Alcoholics Anonymous. There's
Yeah.
Vinyl
box set anonymous.
Yes. The one thing though is that Jay.
Go ahead, look at the camera.
The one,
No, Jay.
The one thing though with Jay is he will wait for a good price. Like
I will.
he will not overpay.
I will not.
So-
My name is Jay, and I'm a box set aholic.
The first step.
First step is
Stop.
take responsibility.
I'm a super deluxe, whatever it is.
Super deluxe edition
That's
junkie.
right. That's
Junkies.
right. Somebody has to do that.
But anyway,
Yeah. I spend my money on VIP tickets.
there you are a junkie.
So I
at
see
that
on your
too.
note card, "Whom God Destroyed." I'm glad because that on Apple Music, every time stuff comes, it's interesting the way Apple Music isn't really putting it in categories. It's the way that people are tagging it. And
Right.
just an aside, have you ever heard of the band? They're called Elder.
Yeah.
They're like a doomy kind of band, but then they kind of went proggy. And their last couple of albums are really proggy. So I didn't know that. I knew their early stuff, and then I read something online. It was like, in this album, and then I think they did an album last year or something. I listened to it, I was like, wow. And there's some points where it's doomy, then all of a sudden, like the Mellotron and the keyboard, and the organ
Right.
come in. I'm like, wow, this stuff is good. But anyways, this band was one that was recommended, and then all of a sudden last week I saw it pop up in the new releases. I didn't listen to it, but I was like, because I go in there and I'm looking at the titles of the songs, and I think it's metal or something.
Well,
so
it's
explain.
so it's Ron Thal, Bumblefoot, and Derek Sherinian of Sons of Apollo.
Okay, yes,
And-
and formerly the Dream
Yeah.
Theater. He was in Dream Theater. That's
Right,
I got to be
yep,
honest. I never listened to Dream Theater, and then when he got in, I listened to that album. I like that album. I
Falling into Infinity.
I thought that was a nice album.
It's a great album.
I think he's great. He's amazing.
Amazing
for keyboard.
player. Yep. Well, his Planet X stuff was ridiculous with Virgil Donati and
Oh my god.
Philip Bino on bass. I mean,
Yeah.
so Derek is a man. And this is the two of them from Sons of Apollo. It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of kind of screamo and doom and death metal aspects to it. So
Okay.
Right up my alley.
No.
Hold on. He's in the band with Glenn Hughes and
Black
Black Country
Communion.
Communion.
Yeah.
And
Jason Bonham.
Jason Bonham.
Wow.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Another
he gets it
great
right.
band.
He's a
Yeah,
good
another great
keyboard
band.
player.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. That's a great.
How's the album? Is the
album's good? It's
Yeah.
just
Doomy?
it's really heavy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not up Jay's alley.
I don't know. It's perfect day.
He's
for
not
it.
going. He's not going to buy
The box set.
He's not going to buy the box.
However, Marillion,
Yeah.
speaking of...
I've never heard of them.
Yeah,
Explain.
I don't know. They are releasing the Marillion Weekend stuff. They just released a single, but they're going to be doing the first show and then half of the second show from one of the the past year.
Okay.
On DVD, Blu-ray, whatever.
Yeah,
and then they're gonna do later the second half of the second show and the third show as part of the whole thing. So that will be
Hold
that's
on,
a whole
I'm confused.
thing.
Is
It's
it
a
two separate releases?
it's a 3-night thing that they are
Okay.
dividing in two
Two.
right down
Gotcha.
the middle.
Okay.
And so the first single
Was
just
yesterday.
came out.
Yeah, it was released yesterday morning.
Oh,
And-
I thought I listened to it last week.
Okay,
Scooped you.
as always.
We'll give you that pass.
It was an.
We'll give you that pass with Marillion.
It was an.
It's reprogrammed the gene live at Port
Yep.
Zealand.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so
And crazy outro, that he mentioned. Why
Is this the weekend you went to or the European one?
that was European, but they did
Okay.
the exact same set in Montreal.
Right.
So I will buy this because it will be
Right,
a
but
DVD,
it is
whatever.
not your show.
For the record,
It's not the
your
actual show I went to.
We should be looking for you in the crowd.
so for the
No, you should
all I'm
because
saying.
I was not VIP, so I
right.
wouldn't be in the front row.
Was there a VIP?
Or the second
Was there
row.
a VIP?
I'm sure they had some sort of thing, but I don't know if they did. I wasn't even looking for that. I just bought my ticket like a normal person.
Is it because you're getting older? Why-
no, a
why is this-
single
you used to-
normal person ticket. Didn't have to go to the
General
VIP,
admission.
gold status,
Well-
platinum, floating above the crowd. I didn't do that.
John
walking on
Anderson
water,
levitating you.
walking on water. No, so I apologize because I only heard it for the first time yesterday, Friday, when music is released.
Typically,
because last Friday I was with Marillion.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
And they didn't.
Actually, Steve Hogarth played it for me. It was on his phone. Little did I know he was just playing it off
He
Spotify.
sang a lullaby.
He sang it to me. He
He
tucked
sang
me
it.
in
Yeah, he tucked it.
and
All
left a mint on my pillow. God damn it.
I couldn't have heard it when it was released.
Because you were actually listening to it live.
Yeah,
Fair
and
enough.
that is actually the truth.
That is
so.
the
You
truth.
scooped me, but I trumped you.
True.
So I heard it. I heard it from Europe yesterday for the first time, and I was really impressed with it, having seen it live. And then
Great.
he has this wonderful outro about how
Hugging, yeah,
the new
because they
album
go-
came to be.
Yeah.
and why this is where we are.
It's kind of funny though because the outro is starting to introduce the next song.
I know it is. It is.
What, does it just fade?
Well,
or
the,
they
the
just,
next
Oh
part.
no, he's talking after the
Oh,
song
okay.
is over, and,
And then it goes right
Murder
into the
Machines
second
is the next song
Murder
because it's
Machine.
all about you hug
But it
somebody
will all
and
be
you could
released
kill
at
them.
some point, and we'll go
Yes.
into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so weird because you're right. You listen to the first part, and then he's saying why, and then they don't play Murder Machine. In fact, when you're watching the show, he tells you the story of what's happened during the pandemic, and you
Goes
were
right
afraid to
into
touch people,
Yeah.
and then Murder Machines, and anyway, that was
So
weird. They
I'm
should've-
looking forward to that because
So
we
am I.
had experienced it, and I would love to
Yes.
have that as a memento, which is
Well, you
half of the
Yeah.
reason why they do it.
Well, we'll
anyway,
talk
is
about it
it-
when it's
when it
when
comes
you
out.
have it in hand
Yes,
and can show it.
yeah.
I have to do my pre-order. The Super Deluxe Edition.
We're keeping you from that. The Super Deluxe Edition
Did
for
they
sure.
do Care every night or?
No, that if you listen to our first podcast,
I was on a boat.
He was still with Steve
was-
Hogarth.
That was last year.
That last
No, I was with Rothery that time and Pete. Because remember I was with Pete.
we
2 years
talked
ago.
we talked through the whole thing. They did 3 different sets
Yeah.
every night.
Oh, good.
It was 3 nights in a row. It was fantastic. They're talking about not doing it that way next time because the band doesn't want to do 3 nights in a row. They're talking about making it a 4-night thing that they do a night and then other bands, and then 2 more nights.
Huh. Okay.
And they're like, we're just throwing that out as a feeler.
Right.
That people do that still? And they're like, well, if I'm going to
But are they-
Montreal anyway,
Right.
an extra
But
night is not going to kill me.
The one night, is it like the Steve Rothery band?
They did not
'cause then they're
describe
just
who it would be.
defeating it,
Right.
No, it would be more of, I think, Prog adjacent bands,
Okay.
or
Right.
similar type bands.
They could get bands that prog bands that are named after Marillion songs.
right.
That would be a great theme.
Or they could get bands
Because
that.
they'll have Gazpacho.
Yeah.
No, that's right. But they could or they could get bands that Pete plays in.
It's like the set. What is this? 6 degrees of.
Yeah. 6 degrees of Marillion. That's how you have to be on the stage on that night. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know where they're going with that.
Yeah.
But we did enjoy it the last time. But it is, I think you would have to. The concept would be you buy the package.
Right. Cheaper.
I have no
The
idea.
VIP. You might do VIP
I
for
would.
this
No,
one.
I don't think I would.
okay.
You know me. Fanfare for the common man.
Right, take a train.
Wow. Okay, a big train.
Hitchhike to Montreal
Yes.
to save money.
Start now. Anything
Oh,
else?
I saw something, speaking of project, that Bill Bruford is doing some sort of talk with the Project X or whatever.
Yeah. So Project. Do you
Yeah.
know? It's
I saw
Jonathan
them-
Mover? Is that Jonathan Mover?
Yeah,
Okay.
Jonathan Mover, Rio, Mike Keneally.
okay.
Yeah.
And Bruford is doing a
And-
talk before
Yeah,
one of their
Bruford,
shows
I don't know
or
how
after
they-
one of their
yeah,
shows. I don't know what it
it's-
is.
yeah,
I'm
somehow
a big
they're
fan of, and Michael
Project.
Michael Sadler singing.
That's what I thought. The Saga guy. I was
Yeah.
like, isn't the Saga guy in
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
But yeah, somehow in the New York show, which I think is at the Sony Theater,
Yeah,
Sony
it is.
Hall,
Bruford's talking.
Bill Bruford's doing a talk. It's just I
Are
don't
you
know
going
if
to
he's
that?
just coming for
I
that,
don't
or-
know.
It's in
because
June.
There's no VIP.
No. I'm working on that, but wait.
There might be a VIP. There might be a
You're
VIP.
right here.
I'm
No,
pretty
my
sure.
VIP. Where's my
I
VIP?
put him over here.
I'm pretty sure it's June.
I already have
sometime in
VIP.
June. Yes.
No. If I tell Jay
Right.
that I'm
Oh.
thinking about going, he's gonna blow me off.
I know.
That's his MO.
Because then he'll tell me, because I'm doing VIP. It's like
Right.
$9 million. And I'm like, I don't need to see him that bad.
If you have to ask how much it is, you can't afford it.
That's right. How much are the tickets? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Wrong question. It's like yes.
Anyway, big fan. They warmed up the cruise 2 years ago. They were
okay.
the pre-cruise band, but they had played in Norwalk at the Wall Theater.
Oh, I remember that.
It was so
I
good.
didn't go.
It was so good. And
I'd never heard
yeah,
of
it
that,
was
yeah.
spectacular.
Ah.
And
And
then-
what did it, what do they do?
Well, they only did prog covers.
Okay.
So, of course, they did Genesis, Crimson, Yes, ELP, and if you look at the set list, it's pretty prolific.
Did they
do a Saga
Marillion?
tune?
They did not do Marillion, and actually, at Wall Theater, Ron and I went, just the two of us, and we sat in the front row.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who had probably been drinking a lot that day who kept screaming at Michael Sadler, like, to do,
On the loose.
Saga. He's
Yeah.
screaming. And finally,
Don't be late.
yeah, so finally, and Michael was like, "Hey, dude, you know the set list. We're doing Rush, we're doing Yes, we're doing Prog. This is the Project. We're not doing our own band stuff."
Yeah.
Well, the guy was so belligerent that in between two songs, I just turned and I said, "Shut the fuck up."
We'll have to bleep
And
that.
the guy, yeah.
Bleep.
But so a week later, my son and I are at the pre-party for Cruise to the Edge 2 years ago,
Yeah.
2022, and Project has now worked its way down the East Coast, did 4 or
Down to
5
Florida.
shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Sadler, walk up to him, and I just said, I just wanted to say, like, that show last week in Connecticut was spectacular. You guys are great. And he goes, "I owe you a drink." He bought my son and I a cocktail for telling that guy what to do. He said, that guy was so annoying. I said, I know he was. I was like, you're really, like, you want that t-shirt that says, please excuse the band for interrupting your conversation. You know, so.
That happens.
I know.
We saw Steve Howe up at Toad's place one time, and he's just him on guitar, and he stops the show and he goes, "Can you guys just stop talking? I get the clinking of glasses and the ice at the bar, but it's a little much."
Oh
Yeah.
And then he went on, and everybody cheered, and he went on to continue to play.
And I was
It's hard.
hoping Saga, because Saga was on the cruise.
Yeah. Oh.
So Michael Sadler, Prog.
Oh, did you get to hear On the Loose?
Twice. Got to hear it twice. It was good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better live than the studio version of it. It just.
I mean, I like their stuff, the early stuff through that album, and even a couple after that. And they were one of the bands. This is like fits perfectly into when we were talking about 90s prog, and I was clutching at straws. Anything that was prog. And it would be, but you couldn't listen to anything. And it was like, Saga's coming out with a new album. And I was like, whatever the one that pulling the rabbit out of the hat or something, House of Cards or whatever
House
it was
of
called.
Cards.
And I was like, I think I had Walk at it at Brass City. Yeah. And I remember him saying, he's like, why do you want this? I'm like, it's Saga. And he's like, I'm not sure it's, and then I put it, I'm like, oh man.
And
come on. It was like, there's one song that like half of it's prog, you know?
Yeah.
Wasteland.
And so Prog Jack didn't get on, they weren't part of the cruise in 2022, but Michael Sadler was there for the pre-party concert that they got paid for, I assume. And then a couple of those guys, you know, Mike Keneally was with Zappa Band, was on the cruise. Rio with Spock's Beard is on the cruise. So those guys, Jonathan Mover's like the only player that was, and Matt Dorsey played with Kersner and a few other people. So the reason why I bring this up is Marco, my son, had never listened to Saga ever, understood all the Prog Jack because of just growing up with that. And he's like, that guitarist and that singer, he said, now I understand where Prog got started, because that guy's doing like Van Halen licks on guitar before Eddie Van Halen was doing it. He's like, he really appreciated Saga and even wished that they had been on this cruise last week. Yeah. So
well,
that's
there you go.
Is like what goes around comes around.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's the news.
That's a lot of news. Thank you again, Tim.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on.
Guys.
And until the next episode, Prog will find a way.
If you want it to.